Today we're going to be reviewing all 12 fights of Creator Clash 2023. I actually did this video last year when my fiance fought in Creator Clash 2022, which was the first one. But since then, I have become a lot more educated on boxing and I've actually casually taken up training. So, hint, hint, Ian and Anissa. But I feel like this year going into the fights and watching them, I actually had a lot more knowledge on what was going on. I also do want to say before we get into this, while I am reviewing the fights and I'm going to be showing some clips, I highly recommend you go purchase the VOD directly from Creator Clash. It's for a great cause and it helps support a really, really great community and great creator match. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. Parking for Amalie Stadium was insane. We showed up over 30 minutes early and then we ended up finding parking like 25 minutes later a mile away from Amalie and had to take bird scooters over, so I missed the first few rounds of this fight. We saw the last 2 rounds of this fight and they definitely didn't have a crazy amount of energy, but that's to be expected because they were already 3 rounds in. They both had similar heights, weights, and reaches, so I didn't feel like Dakota or Jack had a clear advantage. They both did a really good job on the offensive. They did a good job of going in for it and seizing opportunities. But if I do see them come back next year, I would definitely expect to see better dodging from both of them. Again, this might have been the thing that I was seeing them for the last 2 rounds, so they could have been a little bit tired, and sometimes when you're tired, training goes out the window, and it seems like for these creator events, dodging and defending yourself seems to be the first thing that goes out the window. In the end, Jack was the winner, but I do have to say I adored the sportsmanship between the two of them. Dakota seemed fully happy for Jack, which is super cool. It is kind of a weird thing to watch people go from like aggressively beating each other up to like hugging and clapping for the other person, but I love it. Like Jack and Dakota, I thought Sabrina and Jaelaray were pretty evenly matched in terms of body stats and also amount of training that they received. I think Jaelaray came out and was a little bit more prepared to handle the crowd noise and just the overall stage, but Sabrina did something really unique that I think I only saw one other time during this whole event. She got knocked around quite a few times and then all of a sudden just fell back on her training. All of a sudden she was slipping, blocking, and countering properly. It was super weird, but it was super awesome. If I had to guess how the hell this actually happened, I would guess that Sabrina probably sparred a decent amount and she was probably a little stunned by the crowd, but as soon as she got hit a few times, she was able to just instinctually fall back on her sparring training. I do know from my fiance fighting last year that crowd can be super overwhelming, and that was definitely a theme with the fighters that I talked to. I did also admire Jaelaray's stamina throughout her entire fight. She looked the exact same in her first round as she did in the last round. She didn't seem to tire at all. I definitely think that she did a really good job with conserving her energy, so that way in her last fight, even though she definitely felt tired, you couldn't see it on her. At the end of it, I wasn't surprised that Jaelaray won, but I do have to say Sabrina put up a hell of a fight and did not make that easy for her. I talked to AB the night before his fight, and to say I wasn't excited about this would be a complete and utter lie. AB did give us a little sneak peek on his strategy and told us that he would be coming out swinging. I don't know if you saw Dad's fight last year because it was over so damn quick, but anyone that goes up against Dad is immediately the underdog. I don't care who it is. So I have a lot of respect for AB for not only coming out for a second year, but also agreeing to fight Dad. As far as form and actual boxing, this one screamed WWE to me instead of boxing, but it was incredibly entertaining. I do have a few things to say when it comes to Dad. Number one, I do have a lot of respect to Dad for breaking character and becoming Nathan to really show his appreciation for AB.
I don't just feel amazing because I won. I truly feel amazing because I fought AB. I love AB. He's truly a good friend. I love H3. I'm honored to have fought AB. Truly.
When you play a character like that, it is definitely very difficult to break that character and open up and be vulnerable to everybody. So I have a lot of respect to Dad, Nathan, to do that. Number two, Dad's entrance was iconic. I have no other words for it. If you want to see it, purchase the Creator Clash VOD. I have no words. I've not stopped talking about it. And number three, Dad's call out to the WWE was iconic. I don't know what he would have done if he lost that match, but I do think it was well deserved, and kudos to Dad for having that moment. Going into this one, my favorite was definitely Chris, because I know that William did not have proper time to prepare. I do feel like, unfortunately, with this fight, I have to bring up Froggy Fresh, because otherwise people are gonna be like, oh, justice for Froggy, or like whatever in the comments. I've been in social media at this point since the beginning of 2020. And I do have to say, people are way nicer online than they are offline. If someone is talking poorly of someone online, 1000% they are talking way worse about that person offline. I don't know the full situation. I don't know if we ever will, but 100% there was a lot more that happened than what we saw. So I'm not gonna pass any judgment on it because I don't have the full scope of what happened with that. Chris did really well in the first round, particularly with keeping his gloves up. If he ever happened to see this video and responded with like my trainer would smack me in the head if I did not keep my gloves up, I wouldn't be surprised. When I saw William's stats right before his round, I did think that there was a chance that William would have more of an advantage than I had thought. For only having 3 weeks to prepare, I have a lot of respect for William. Again, was William's form the absolute best? And did he look like a professional boxer? No, but he had 3 weeks. Then he looked damn better than most people would after 3 months. William had power, but Chris had speed, which I thought would work in Chris's favor if he could just make it through all 5 rounds. William was able to land a really, really powerful punch, disorienting Chris, and then William went in with the fury of a Karen on Black Friday on Chris. It was insane. William came through with a TKO in the second round. He definitely saw a moment and went for it, which is amazing considering his lack of training. Massive kudos, and kudos to Chris as well, because I'm sure all the changes that happened in the month before were hella stressful. This fight was definitely one of the less crazy ones for the night. Alana kicked butt in the first round, but then she seemed either really tired or scared. As she had said later, it finally kind of clicked for her that she was hitting one of her good friends, which probably made her not want to advance on Mika at all. It was a pretty close fight, so I wasn't surprised when it was a split decision, but ultimately Alana won. I've never seen Myth fight before, but he definitely came out with a good amount of experience, which was good because Hundar has also fought before. In terms of body stats, they were pretty evenly matched. Height, weight, and reach seemed about the same. I do think Myth had a slight edge because he's 23 and Hundar is 39. Regardless, Myth did great. I would have wanted to see a longer fight though. Myth did look better coming off of chess boxing 3 months earlier, and I think that that gap in between was perfect because he was probably still pretty well conditioned to the crowd, still pretty well physically conditioned, but had enough time for any injuries to heal. Myth won after laying out Hundar in the first round. Much like the Dad AB fight, this one was called off due to medical reasons. Haley was my favorite going into this round. I thought that she'd have the audience support, but last time she only had 2 to 3 months to prepare, and boy, could that girl take a punch and keep fighting. She was so incredibly tough last year that I thought that with a whole extra year of training and good technique that she would just be an absolute monster, and I was right. I don't know if Marisha has ever fought before, but I do have to say she did an awesome job at dodging. Haley's punches weren't super predictable. So definitely some moments I could see what she was going for, but at others she was very quick and, they weren't easy to dodge at all. I didn't like how much holding was going on during this match. I do know that that is a technique, so that way the ref will separate you so you can stop getting hit, but it was happening a lot, particularly from Marisha. It wasn't my favorite thing. I wanted to see her counter a little bit more. Like myself, Haley has a very strong right jab. She seemed to be using her left hand to stun and then using her right hand to do damage. It's a technique that actually my boxing coaches have me train because my right side can do damage. I wrote the script for this whole video based off the notes that I took at the fight, and I have to read you these notes because they're so funny. I don't know what these are in reference to, but I said, genuinely stressed, hospital, loads of hospital, which I just think is funny. I don't know what point in this match that I wrote that, but I agree. In the end, Haley won, which wasn't a surprise, but Marisha did awesome. Again, like Sabrina, Marisha did not make that easy for Haley. By the way, just the scripting portion of this video alone took a whole 3.5 hours to do. So if you appreciate that, if you could just smash that like button for me, that'd be greatly appreciated. I've met Jarvis Johnson quite a few times, and he's always so nice. But I also am a fan of his content, and, I'm not that familiar with Aaron, and I haven't gotten the chance to meet him, so of course I wanted Jarvis to win. I know Aaron had experience from being in last year's, and he's had a lot longer to train, so that was going to work in his favor against Jarvis. I don't think Jarvis was super technical and his form was super great, but that's to be expected when it's his first fight. Aaron definitely looked a lot more technical in this, but even Aaron wasn't super technical either. I do think it was really cool that he did the same thing as Sabrina, and after getting hit a few times in the face, he just all of a sudden saw red and definitely went for it and was a lot more aggressive and tried to defend himself better. It was entirely awesome. I loved to see that Jarvis did not take the beating that he was getting laying down and really went on the offensive. Love to see it. Cool to see from a first-time boxer. I did think he did a really good job of, as a first-time fighter, attempting to protect himself. A lot of the times as a first-time boxer, you'll see that go entirely out the window and then completely forget to protect or defend themselves at all. And you could see he was really trying, and he did a better job at it than I think most people at his level would have. It wasn't the most technical fight, but it was very entertaining, and good job to both fighters. Aaron won in the second round with a TKO, but Jarvis did not take that laying down. Oh man, when I tell you this is the fight that I was the most excited for Creator Clash, I feel like that's an understatement. I was so excited for this. My fiance had actually done a podcast with Michelle a week or two before Creator Clash, and so I heard all of the inside deets on it. And I was so excited. I'm going to link that down below, by the way, if you want to watch it after this. After this, if you want to hear more about her actual training, you can see it. It's gnarly. Michelle was crazy intense, and Andrea returned that intensity like a mirror. Andrea's back was to us most of the time, so I couldn't see this, but I did see Michelle just didn't blink. It was gnarly. I couldn't blink either because everything was happening so quick. Their fight was literally like watching a beautifully violent tango. And that's the best way to describe it. Honestly, if you're like, I'm not going to buy the VOD to watch and I'm just going to go off this video, I would tell you that 100% this fight is worth buying that VOD. And I actually bought it again just to watch this fight again. Also, Michelle's nose was hella broken and she just kept fighting through it. I don't know very many people who would break a bone and just keep going. Insane. Michelle won her first fight, but Andrea held her own. It was so intense. Kudos to both women because wow. I'm almost getting teary thinking about it because that fight was just incredible. I felt really bad for Leonhart going into this one because I really liked him, but the audience was not on his side. Massive flashbacks to Michael versus Graham. I felt bad because that's what happened to Graham last time, and I know that didn't feel good at all. I think Leonhart was smart and tried to conserve energy the first round, which is, always ideal. You don't want to just burn through all your energy in your first round and then die for the next 4. Ethan knocked him down, and you know what? Leonhart got up and kept going for it, which takes a lot of guts. So, kudos. I'm just saying kudos to everybody. And they both had pretty clean punches, and I do have to say that they definitely seem to do a better job of staying on their toes, particularly with that back foot for new fighters. I also do have to say props to Ethan for jumping in on that one. Leonhart had body stats on him, so that could not have been easy mentally to get over. Harley definitely had the crowd favorite because he fought last year. Also, Harley had height and weight on JohnRandallHennigan, who literally looked like Thor. Harley definitely had a massive reach advantage, which would definitely scare me going into that fight, but John was very aggressive and kept going for it. To be honest, this one also didn't feel much like boxing to me. It felt more WWE, especially with Harley getting knocked out of the ring. And no, I don't think that was staged. He was pretty cut up from that. So I just don't think it was staged. After Harley hit his head on the floor, medical called it off, which, again, wasn't surprising to me because we had seen medical call off, I think, 3 other fights because of this. I didn't know who JohnRandallHennigan was before this, but he did an awesome job. So I'm very excited that he got to be in this Creator Clash. last year at Creator Clash, because I was staying in the Creator Clash hotel with my fiance, I actually ran into Alex in the elevator. I was like, hey, are you fighting? And he's like, oh, no, I'm not fighting. I'm like, oh, would you ever fight next year? He's like, never really thought about that, but maybe. And so to see when he was announced to be on the card for this year, I was like, oh, that's so weird. I literally asked him about this at the last Creator Clash. Ian definitely came out a lot stronger this year than he did last year. He looked a lot more confident. It definitely seemed like Ian's strategy was to conserve energy in the first rounds, but Alex got in a few good hits, and then Ian saw red. I do think my main criticism of this fight is definitely that they did not do a good job of keeping their gloves up and protecting their jaws. For the level of experience both of them had, I would have expected to see more of that. Probably my main criticism of this fight, which isn't a huge deal, but it kind of is a big deal at the same time because that can totally lead to knockouts. So kind of a big deal, but kind of not. I don't know. I did definitely see them utilizing their hips for power and making their punches more full body, which was really cool to see because I definitely didn't see that as much during this Creator Clash. Again, a lot of inexperienced fighters. It's going to happen. I noticed that as the matches went on and Alex seemed to get more tired, you could definitely see his punches coming and what he was about to do. I also want to point out how amazing Ian's breath work was. You could hear, even with all the crowd noise, Ian's exhales as he was punching, which was fantastic. There's like two main reasons why you want to do this. One, it'll help protect your organs because you're going to be flexing your muscles. So if he came in with a jab, it's going to protect you a little bit better. And two is when you force an exhale like that, just try it with me. 1, 2, 3. I don't know if you felt that, but because you're creating such a negative space in your airways, it really forces oxygen back in easier. So it's a really good way to keep your blood oxygenated. It's actually a running technique, is to learn how to control your breath. So that way in races, your body is a lot more oxygenated and you can actually totally drop seconds from your time just because your body is getting the proper oxygen it needs. Alex, at the end of it, just did a little bit better, and he actually ended up winning the match. It was a fantastic fight, though. As far as everything else goes, I know I've been talking like, oh yeah, Creator Clash 3. I don't know if they're going to do a third Creator Clash, but I really hope they do. This has been like a fun event that I look forward to going to in April, and I hope that this continues. Selfishly, I really want them to continue it until I am big enough to draw a crowd, and then I can get invited in because I would love to step into that ring. So if you want to potentially ever see me fight, if you could just tap that subscribe button for me so that way I have a better shot at going, and so that way they look at me as somebody who can draw a crowd and like watch my videos too, that would be great. Next video I'm doing is where I meditated morning and night for 7 days straight to see how it would help my mental health. It's been recommended to me by therapists before, so I actually did it and documented it. And, you know, with that said, I will see you next time. Okay, bye.